this video, we're going over $1 bills that sold for a whole lot of money, so you do not want to miss any single thing I go over because it's typically the smallest little detail that means the difference of thousands of dollars on your $1 bill. So without wasting any more time, let's hop right into this video. So this $1 bill sold for $1,495. Now, one of the first things that we need to understand is where these $1 bills were produced, because that's very important when determining the value. So in this example, you're going to see a small letter E with some numbers afterwards. That is the front plate number. All that means is the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, where they produce these bills, they need some way to track which printing plate produced this specific bill. Now, I don't want to bore you with too many details, but pretty much before that letter E, sometimes there's a small little FW. Now, if it does not have that, like this example, that means that this bill was produced at the Washington, D.C. facility where they produce paper money. Now, that is important for a future bill, so keep that in mind. Another key factor on this bill is that large letter K on the left-hand side of the bill. That is called the district seal. If you look closely, you can see that this bill was intended for the Dallas, Texas district. Now, you'll also notice that K is the prefix letter of the serial number. So you can see there's a large black K and then a small green K. Now, if those two letters are different, for example, there's a large black A and a small green K before the serial number, that can be worth a lot of money. Pretty much those two letters should always be the same. Now, there's one more piece to this puzzle. You can see there's small black number 11s around the bill. That is the district number. So if you haven't put two and two together, K is the 11th number in the alphabet. So if the district seal was an A, that number would be 1. If it was a B, that number would be 2, etc. If the K and the number are different, that can also be very rare. Now, the last couple things on why this bill sold for $1,495 is because this. First of all, this was graded by PMG at a 67, which is a very high grade. If you didn't know, 70 is the highest achievable grade. Lastly, this is a star note. I'll keep it very brief, but essentially star notes occur when there is an error during the printing process and a sheet needs to be destroyed. So a quality control manager will pick out a sheet, see that there is a mistake or printing error on the bills, they will scrap that sheet and produce a new sheet of bills with a star at the end of the serial number. Again, this simply comes down to checks and balances and making sure that they're producing the correct number of bills and that there is no theft going on where they're producing these bills. So all of those things combined allowed this $1 bill to sell for $1,495. Now, remember what I was saying before. If you look at the front plate number on the bottom right hand side there, before the front plate number, you'll see a small little FW. What does that mean? That means that this bill was produced at the Fort Worth, Texas facility where they produce paper money. If you don't see the small FW, that means it was produced at the Washington, D.C. facility. Now, why did this bill sell for $1,610? First of all, again, I'll keep it brief. This is a 68 PPQ, 2 points away from the perfect grade of 70. PPQ pretty much means premium paper quality. That means there's no tears, stains, or anything bad on the bill. The main reason why it sold for so much money is because this is a fancy serial number that is an ascending ladder. You can see the serial number starts with the number 1 and goes all the way up to 8 consecutively. If you have a fancy serial number like this, you could have a bill with a lot of money because this one sold for $1,610. This $1 bill sold for $4,200, and this is probably my personal favorite bill to try to hunt for, and it's not because it's a star note, but I'm going to tell you why right now. So this $1 1988 bill is considered to be a web note. Now, let me tell you one thing really quick. Just because your bill says 1988, or any year for that fact, does not mean that's when the bill was actually produced. Pretty much when they're producing plates, they have to engrave the year on that plate, so they don't want to have to produce new plates every single year. So for example, if your bill says 1988, it could have been produced in 1989, 1990, 1991, etc. But it will never be produced before that date. For example, this bill could have never been produced in 1987. Anyways, why this is so important is because this is a web note. Now, there are 3 ways to figure out if you have a web note. Let me quickly explain what a web note is. Long story short, during the late 80s and early 90s, they were trying out a new process to produce paper money faster. So what they did is they used a web press, which is very similar to how they produce newspapers in one continual strand. What ended up happening was tons of error notes. So shortly after, they scrapped this idea because it was causing way too many problems for them. But here are the ways to figure out if you have have a web note. Again, this bill sold for $4,200. First thing is, if you look at Washington's face there, the portrait is going to be a bit washed out. I'm going to throw up some comparisons to show you exactly what to look for. Next, you're going to want to look at the front plate number. Now, typically, this front plate number will have letters around the front plate. This one, for web notes, they only have a number. So keep that in mind. Do not forget that. Lastly, and probably the fastest and easiest way to tell if you have a web note is if you look at the back plate number to the right of In God We Trust, you're going to see a small back plate number in a different location than it typically should be in. Now, here's the thing. If you have one of these things, you will have all three. So do keep that in mind. Because this is a web note that graded at a 67 by PMG, this bill sold for $4,200. This $1 bill sold for $16,800. Now, I want you to pause this video and leave a comment below letting me know if you can tell why this bill sold for so much money. So go ahead and pause it and I'll tell you exactly why right now. So if you haven't noticed already that this bill is in pretty low graded condition, it graded by PMG at a very fine 30. You can see they also put a negative comment of ink on the back of the bill. You can see that pink ink there. But a few things, if you notice from the previous example, this is indeed a web note. But one of the main reasons why is because this is a mismatched suffix error. So if you see the serial number on the left-hand side of the bill, the serial number ends with a star, and on the upper right serial number, it ends with a letter L. That should never happen, and if you have one, it's rare, so hold on to it because this one sold for $16,800. Just showing you a better example one that sold for $24,000. So same thing, it's a web note, mismatched suffix error. This one sold for $24,000. This bill sold for $1,920, and here's why. So you can see the grade is very high. It's very important to know that the condition of your bill overall will generally impact the value significantly. So if you have a rare bill, keep it safe, don't fold it. Pretty common sense stuff, but you'd be surprised what people will do with their paper money. So the main reason why this bill sold for so much money is because this is a mule note. Now, mule notes are a term to describe a misprinted or incorrectly assembled banknote. The term mule that's used to describe an animal that's a cross between a horse and a donkey is very similar to a banknote like this. It typically occurs when two different types of printing plates accidentally are used on the same side of the note. The Bureau of Engraving and Printing has strict quality control measures in place, but sometimes these mule notes do get out, especially back in the day. You can see this one is from 1963, so do keep that in mind. But pretty much what you need to know is if your 1963 $1 bill has a back plate number of 443, just like this one, then you have a mule note worth a lot of money because this one sold for $1,920. I'll be very brief here. I just love these notes. This $1 bill sold for $31,200, and yes, this is indeed a genuine 1869 $1 legal tender banknote that was produced by the United States. This is one of my favorite types of bills. Collectors call these rainbow notes because of the security features and the rainbow blue, green, and red color on the bill. If you have one, especially in high grade, they are worth good money. Just to let you know, these bills are much larger in size compared to the typical $1 bill we're used to seeing. But if you have one, it's rare. This one sold for $31,200. Won't spend too much time here, but this bill sold for $27,600, mainly because the condition is uncirculated. That means there is no folds on the bill whatsoever. And also, this is a solid number 9 serial number. You can see that serial number has all 9s there. A rare serial number like this is really going to increase the value of the bill. Again, $27,600 for this bill. I'll spend just a few seconds on this bill that sold for $90,000. So essentially, this is a $1 1899 silver certificate bill. Collectors call this a Black Eagle note. Not only did it grade very highly, but it has a solid number 9 serial number. Just to let you know, back in the day, you could take this $1 bill and bring it to a bank and get the same value worth of silver in return. That's why they call them a silver certificate. Very cool bill. I love these Black Eagle notes. If you have one, typically in very beat condition, low grade, they can be worth anywhere between $30 to $100. But if you have these things like this bill does here, the high grade and the good serial number, you're in for a real treat because this one sold for $90,000. So if you're looking at the back of this $1 bill, you wouldn't believe that it sold for $21,600, but it's when you flip the bill over that you see there are a multiple impressions error occurring on this bill. This should have never happened. If you have something like this, keep it very safe. Now, if you're trying to buy something like this, be very careful because there are people out there that will will run this through their printer and try to duplicate an error like this. Be very cautious and only buy if it's graded by a third-party company like PMG or PCGS. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll definitely enjoy the video on the screen. I'll see you in the next one.